The twin suns of Xylaria hung low in the sky, casting golden shadows over the city of Aloria. Towers of crystal and metal rose high, their surfaces reflecting light in rainbow patterns. The city was alive with a soft hum of energy. Xylarians moved with grace, their translucent skin glowing faintly in the sun's fading light. Every corner of the city reflected their careful planning and perfection. Nothing seemed out of place, and yet, in the royal palace, a sense of unease stirred. Princess Lyra paced the balcony of her chamber, her hands gripping the cool metal railing. Her heart thumped faster than usual. It was not fear of battle, for she had trained in the art of diplomacy and strategy since she was a child. No, this fear was different. Today, a human had arrived on Xylaria, Captain Elias Vance, a warrior sent from the distant planet of Earth. Lyra had heard of humans before. The elders spoke of them as curious, unpredictable, and capable of remarkable feats. They did not rely on raw power or ancient knowledge like the Xylarians. Instead, they relied on their minds, their courage, and their ability to adapt. This was why the Council had sent invitations for diplomacy. Humans were said to be capable of inspiring others, even when they seemed ordinary at first glance. And yet, Lyra's pulse quickened at the thought of meeting him. She had prepared for many things in her life, negotiations, threats, even rebellions, but never for someone who carried a calm yet commanding presence without arrogance. In her imagination, humans were wild, loud, and messy. Elias, however, was rumored to be different. They said he faced challenges with quiet confidence, that he could stand in the face of danger and remain steady. "Princess Lyra," a voice called softly behind her. It was her advisor, Mael, a tall Xylarian with silver hair and eyes that glimmered like starlight. "The human has arrived. The Council expects you to receive him." Lyra turned slowly. Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. "I know," she said. "I am ready." Mael studied her for a moment. "You seem uneasy. Remember, humans are not like the aggressors we often face. This one comes with a message of peace. Do not let fear cloud your judgment." Lyra nodded, though the feeling of unease did not leave. She had spent her life learning the ways of her people. The precise movements, the careful words, the perfect expressions of respect and authority. Humans, she had been told, did not follow these rules. They were unpredictable. That thought alone made her stomach tighten. Moments later, the grand doors of the palace opened and a figure entered. Elias Vance stepped onto the marble floor, his posture upright, his eyes calm and observing. He wore a simple uniform, practical yet clean. Unlike the elaborate garments of Xylarians, there was no attempt to impress, no display of power, just a human, confident but humble. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She had not expected him to look normal. There were no strange markings, no glowing aura, nothing that screamed warrior. And yet something about him demanded attention. He moved with purpose, each step deliberate. He did not rush, did not flinch. Even in his calm, there was a quiet strength. "Princess Lyra," Elias said, his voice steady but kind. "I am honored to meet you." Lyra swallowed hard. She had practiced her formal greeting dozens of times, but when she spoke, her voice came out slightly shaky. "Captain Vance, welcome to Xylaria. Your presence is noted with respect." Elias inclined his head. "Thank you. I come with goodwill, and with the hope of learning from your people as much as I may teach. I hope our meeting will be the beginning of understanding, not just between humans and Xylarians, but between our hearts and minds as well." Lyra's eyebrows rose slightly. His words were strange, not like the polished rhetoric of her advisors. They carried warmth and honesty, and yet they were so simple. There was no attempt to manipulate or impress. She found herself studying him more carefully, noting the subtle gestures, the way he held his hands, the calm in his stance, the steadiness of his gaze. "I see," she said finally. "Your reputation precedes you, Captain. Humans are different. And you are, even more different than I imagined." Elias smiled faintly, not boastful but calm. "Different is not always bad, Princess. Sometimes different is exactly what the universe needs." Lyra could not help but shiver slightly, though she did not know why. There was something in him that made her feel exposed, as if he could see beyond the carefully constructed walls she had built around herself. Humans were said to be bold and fearless. Perhaps it was true, she thought, for she felt a flicker of fear. Not of harm, but of the unknown, of someone who could challenge her mind and spirit. Mael cleared his throat softly. Princess, shall we show the human the palace gardens? It is customary to begin with observation and conversation before formal discussions. Lyra nodded, though her steps felt heavier than usual. As she led Elias through the palace, she noted how he seemed curious without being invasive. He examined the gardens, the architecture, even the small intricate artworks, but never touched or disrupted anything. Yet he asked questions, simple, thoughtful questions that revealed he was paying attention, that he wanted to understand, not to judge. You have built a world of incredible beauty, Elias said softly, looking around. Every detail seems intentional, yet it also feels alive, as if it breathes with your people's history. Lyra felt a small thrill of pride mixed with unease. No Xylarian had ever spoken like that to her. They admired skill, perfection, power, but never with this quiet, reflective tone. He noticed the life behind the walls, not just the walls themselves. Your people are different, she said finally. Humans are known for courage and adaptability. Yet you move with patience as if you understand without judgment. Elias smiled faintly. Perhaps courage is more than action, Princess. Perhaps it is patience, observation, and the willingness to step forward even when you do not fully understand. That is something humans learn over time, perhaps something you already practice in your own way. Lyra stopped walking for a moment, caught off guard by his words. How could a human understand her world so deeply in such a short time? His words were simple, yet they carried weight. And in that moment she realized her fear was growing, not of him, but of what he represented. A human could be fearless in unexpected ways. A human could inspire, challenge, and change. The two walked in silence for a while, the hum of Xylaria surrounding them, the light of the twin suns reflecting off the crystal spires. Lyra found herself wondering not about his intentions, but about the human mind itself, so different from her people, yet strangely powerful. Finally, she spoke again. Captain Elias, your presence here, it unsettles me. Not because I fear for my life, but because I do not understand how one man can carry such calm, such certainty. Elias stopped and looked at her, his gaze steady but gentle. Princess, perhaps that is because certainty does not come from knowing everything. It comes from trusting yourself to face the unknown, to learn and adapt. Humans are small in number, but we have survived because we do not fear challenges. Perhaps that is why my presence feels different to you. Lyra nodded slowly, her heart still racing. She could not deny it. This human, this warrior, had touched something inside her. He had not raised a weapon, nor demanded respect through power. Yet his very being, his calm and quiet strength, commanded it anyway. As the suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the palace, Lyra realized that the arrival of Elias Vance was not just an event of diplomacy. It was the beginning of something far greater, something that would challenge her, teach her, and perhaps even inspire her people in ways she had never imagined. The palace gardens of Eloria glimmered under the soft light of Xylaria's twin moons. Crystalline fountains sang gentle melodies, and the air shimmered faintly with energy that the Xylarians called life breath. Alien flowers glowed softly in shades that Lyra had never seen before, colors that seemed alive, almost aware of her presence. Princess Lyra walked carefully along the marble path, her gown flowing behind her. Beside her, Captain Elias Vance followed without hesitation, observing everything with quiet attention. He was not tall by Xylarian standards, but he moved with a confidence that made him seem larger than life. His presence was calm but commanding, and everywhere he looked he seemed to notice details that most people overlooked. Lyra's hands trembled slightly, though she held them calmly at her sides. She had seen humans in records, of course, but seeing one in person was different. There was a weight to his gaze, a kind of awareness that made her feel as if he could see beyond her carefully crafted exterior. Princess Lyra, Elias said softly, breaking the silence. Your world, it is unlike anything I have seen. There is order, yes, but it is not cold. It feels alive. Your people have balance. Lyra turned to him, surprised by the softness in his tone. You notice details most others ignore, Captain. Even among humans, few would see the life in the architecture, the thought behind the design. Elias shrugged lightly. Perhaps I have learned to see things that matter. On Earth, sometimes we overlook the small details, but the small details often matter most. They show who we truly are, Lyra paused. His words were simple, yet they carried depth. She realized that this human warrior did not speak like the polished Xylarian diplomats. He did not flatter or boast. He spoke plainly, honestly, and yet every word made her think. They stopped near a glowing pond, where the water shimmered in 1,000 colors. Strange fish swam beneath the surface, their scales reflecting the twin moons. Lyra's reflection appeared in the water, and she noticed her own hands trembling slightly. She had not expected to feel this way. "You seem uneasy," Elias observed quietly, looking at her without judgment. "Are you afraid of me?" Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "No," she said quickly. "Not afraid?" "Exactly, perhaps curious and unsettled." Elias smiled faintly. "Curiosity can be a good thing. It opens doors that fear keeps closed." Lyra studied him carefully. There was a strange comfort in his presence, yet a tension too. He did not demand anything, yet somehow, she felt he could see her fears, her thoughts, even the doubts she had kept hidden from everyone else. "You speak of fear and curiosity as if they are friends," she said softly. "Among Xylarians, fear is a warning. Curiosity is often dangerous. Fear can teach," Elias replied. "It tells us what matters. And curiosity can guide us to solutions we never imagined. Humans learn to use both, not be ruled by them." Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. The way he spoke, calm, steady but thoughtful, made her question everything she had believed about humans. She had been taught to respect their courage, yes, but she had also been told to keep them at a distance. Yet here was one human who seemed different. "You are brave," she said, almost without thinking, "but not in the way we expect bravery. You are calm where we would be cautious, steady where we would hesitate. You inspire without words." Elias looked at her with a faint smile. "Bravery is not always about action, Princess. Sometimes it is about standing still and seeing clearly, about understanding before acting. Humans are small in number, but our minds can be wide. Perhaps that is what unsettles you. Our ways are not predictable." Lyra looked down at the pond, watching the reflections ripple in the water. He was right. Humans were unpredictable, and yet there was something honest about it. Something that made her heart race not with fear of harm, but with the thrill of the unknown. The soft sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. Mael appeared, his silver hair glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Princess, it is time to continue our tour. Captain, we have much to show you." Elias inclined his head politely. "Thank you, Mael. I look forward to learning more." As they continued walking, Lyra could not help but study him more closely. He noticed the smallest details, the way a flower leaned toward the moonlight, the subtle patterns in the pathways, even the gentle hum of the fountains. He asked questions that seemed simple but revealed an understanding that surprised her. "What is this energy in the air?" he asked, pointing to the faint shimmer above the gardens. "That is life breath, the essence of Xylaria," Lyra explained. "It flows through everything, plants, water, buildings, even the people. It is our connection to the planet and each other." Elias nodded thoughtfully. "On Earth we have energy too, but it is hidden in things we take for granted. I think we would learn much from observing Xylaria. Your people respect the balance of life, and yet they create beauty in every step. That is rare." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, but also a pang of unease. Humans were not supposed to understand Xylarians so quickly. They were unpredictable, yes, but they were also perceptive. And he was calm, patient, and careful with his words. Her mind raced. They reached a small pavilion in the garden, where the walls were made of clear crystal and the floor glowed softly beneath their feet. Lyra gestured for Elias to sit, but he remained standing, his posture relaxed but alert. "Princess," he said, "may I speak freely?" Lyra hesitated. "You may. I notice your fear," he said gently. "Not fear of me, but of what I represent. You are afraid of change, of the unknown. Yet you are also curious, and in that curiosity I see courage. You do not tremble in weakness, you tremble because you are alive and aware. That is remarkable." Lyra felt her chest tighten. His words were not meant to flatter, yet they touched her deeply. She had spent her life being admired for her poise, her intelligence, her leadership, but he saw her differently. He saw her mind, her spirit, her doubts. I do not know what to say," she whispered. "Say nothing," Elias replied. "Observe. Listen. Learn. Sometimes words are not needed to understand one another." They stood together in silence, the twin moons casting a silver glow over the pavilion. The water in the nearby fountains shimmered like liquid light, and the alien flowers seemed to lean toward them as if listening. Lyra realized that her fear was slowly changing. It was no longer fear of the human, but fear of what he made her feel. Curiosity, admiration, and the stirrings of respect. "Your people are extraordinary," Elias said finally, breaking the silence, "not because of power or technology, but because of your harmony, your thoughtfulness. Humans have much to learn from Xylarians, but I hope we can also share what we know. Perhaps together we can face the challenges of the universe in ways neither of us could alone." Lyra looked at him, her trembling hands slowly relaxing. She had not expected this human to speak with such understanding, such insight, and yet she felt a strange trust forming. Trust in him, trust in what humans might bring to her world. Mael cleared his throat softly. "Princess, the council awaits. They wish to meet Captain Vance formally." Lyra nodded, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. She had faced many formalities before, but nothing like this. The presence of a human among her people was unprecedented, and yet she no longer felt the same fear she had at first. She felt intrigued, challenged, and inspired. As they walked back to the palace hall, Lyra stole a glance at Elias. He walked with steady purpose, calm yet attentive, as if every step carried meaning. Her heart raced, not with fear of harm, but with anticipation. This human warrior had arrived, and she realized that her world, and perhaps she herself, would never be the same again. For the first time in her life, Princess Lyra trembled not because of danger, but because she had encountered someone who could challenge her mind, her spirit, and the very way she saw the universe, and she was ready to meet that challenge. The morning on Xylaria dawned soft and calm, yet inside the royal palace a quiet tension lingered. Princess Lyra walked through the halls, her mind restless. Today, Captain Elias Vance would face the traditional Xylarian trials, a series of tests designed not to harm, but to measure wisdom, creativity, and understanding. Lyra had observed countless diplomats and warriors attempt these trials, and most had failed in some way. They underestimated the subtlety of Xylarian customs, the careful balance of thought and action required. And yet she felt an odd sense of confidence in Elias. Something told her that this human, so unlike her own people, might see solutions that others could not. The trials were held in the Grand Chamber of Reflection, a massive hall with high crystal ceilings and walls that shimmered with faint light. Strange glyphs floated in the air, moving subtly, responding to the thoughts of those who entered. To outsiders, the chamber appeared empty, but Xylarians knew it was alive, sensitive, and demanding. Mael, her advisor, turned to her. "Princess, the first test will measure patience and perception. Observe closely, but do not interfere unless necessary. This is as much about character as it is about skill." Lyra nodded, her heart still fluttering. She had expected many things from humans, but Elias had already proven unpredictable in his calmness. How would he navigate a test designed for Xylarians? Elias stepped into the chamber, his posture relaxed but alert. He did not rush forward or react with caution as others had. Instead, he closed his eyes briefly, taking a steady breath as if centering himself. Lyra's fingers gripped the edge of the balcony she watched from. Even in this moment, he seemed different from anyone she had ever known. The first trial required understanding the floating glyphs. Each glyph represented a problem or a question, and to succeed, one had to interact with them without causing disruption. Most outsiders became overwhelmed, their minds racing to control or manipulate the glyphs. Elias opened his eyes and studied the patterns. He did not touch the glyphs immediately. Instead, he watched, observed, and waited. Slowly, he reached out, gently guiding a glyph with a soft motion of his hand. It responded, shifting to align with the others. He repeated this carefully, step by step, without force or urgency. Lyra gasped quietly. Few Xylarians could achieve this level of precision on their first attempt. She watched as Elias moved through the trial with patience and observation, relying not on brute strength or familiarity, but on intuition and careful thought. His approach was alien yet effective, a human way of solving problems that was both simple and brilliant. The trial ended, and the glyphs settled into perfect harmony. The chamber glowed brightly, a sign of recognition. Mael whispered to Lyra, "He succeeded on the first attempt." "That is extraordinary." Lyra nodded slowly, her admiration growing. He is not like anyone we have trained for years. His mind, it works differently, but it works. The next trial was even more challenging. It required navigating the labyrinth of light, a complex maze filled with illusions, shifting walls and traps meant to confuse and test patience. Many Xylarians struggled here, relying on logic and memory to succeed. Outsiders often failed, overwhelmed by the constantly changing paths. Elias stepped into the labyrinth without hesitation. Lyra watched from above as he moved carefully, observing shadows and reflections. He did not rush or panic. Instead, he treated the illusions as information, studying them and testing each path calmly before choosing. Hours passed, yet he continued steadily. Lyra's unease transformed into fascination. This human was not relying on the brute intellect her people valued. He was improvising, adapting, using creativity where strict rules would fail. The labyrinth shifted, walls moving unpredictably, yet Elias remained composed. He smiled faintly, almost as if he enjoyed the challenge. Finally, he reached the center, a serene chamber filled with soft light. He had not been the fastest, nor had he followed the expected methods, but he had succeeded through observation, ingenuity, and patience. Lyra felt a thrill of admiration. Humans, she realized, had a quality that Xylarians rarely possessed, the ability to see beyond rules, to adapt in ways that were unexpected yet effective. Her fear of the unknown human was giving way to respect, even wonder. The final trial was not one of skill, but of empathy and understanding. Elias was presented with a dilemma involving two holographic Xylarians in conflict. They were acting out a scenario of resource allocation, a problem many humans could have solved mathematically. Yet the solution required insight into feelings, priorities, and balance. Elias paused, observing each figure carefully. He asked questions, listening to the nuances of their expressions, their tone, their body language. Lyra watched in astonishment as he guided the simulation, proposing solutions that satisfied both parties without rigidly enforcing rules. "You are remarkable," Lyra whispered to herself. The human did not dominate, he did not force his ideas. He worked with what he observed, understanding the problem deeply before acting. The holograms resolved peacefully, and the chamber's light glowed warmly, signaling success. Mael turned to Lyra, his expression one of amazement. "Princess, never have I seen an outsider handle these trials with such clarity. He has passed all tests with ingenuity and empathy." Lyra felt a mix of pride and humility. She had expected the trials to reveal weaknesses in the human. Yet he had shown a strength that her people had overlooked. Creativity, patience, and an understanding of others that went beyond calculated reasoning. Elias emerged from the chamber, calm and composed. He approached Lyra, bowing slightly. "Princess Lyra, I am honored to have undertaken your trials. They are unlike anything I have faced before, and I have learned much, not just about Xylaria, but about thought, balance, and understanding." Lyra's voice trembled slightly, though her expression remained composed. "You have exceeded expectations, Captain. Your success is extraordinary. Few could approach the trials as you did, let alone succeed." Elias smiled faintly. "Perhaps it is because the trials are meant to measure understanding, not strength. In humans, we understand differently. We do not follow only what we are taught. We observe, question, and adapt." Lyra nodded slowly, feeling her earlier fear transform into something new. Admiration. She realized that the human warrior had not come to conquer or intimidate, but to engage, to learn, and to inspire. And in that, she found herself inspired too. As the day turned to evening, Lyra led Elias to a terrace overlooking the city. The twin moons reflected on the crystal spires, creating a scene of breathtaking beauty. Lyra could not stop herself from speaking her thoughts aloud. "Captain Elias, I must admit, I feared you at first. Not for harm, but because humans are unpredictable. And you are unlike anyone I have known. Your calm, your patience, your creativity. It is unsettling yet inspiring." Elias turned to her, his eyes calm but thoughtful. "Fear is often the first step to understanding, Princess. It shows what matters to us. And inspiration, perhaps it is found when we least expect it. I have learned from you as well. Xylaria's people, you have patience, grace, and harmony that humans rarely see. I am grateful for this experience." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of respect and curiosity. The trials had revealed more than skill. They had revealed character. And Elias's character, she realized, was something extraordinary. For the first time, she saw a possibility beyond protocol and tradition. Perhaps humans and Xylarians could learn from each other, not just in knowledge, but in spirit. And perhaps, she thought quietly, her fear of the human warrior could transform into something much greater: respect, admiration, and maybe even trust. As the stars of Xylaria shimmered above, Lyra realized that today had changed her perception forever. Elias had not just passed the trials, he had challenged her understanding of courage, intelligence, and heart. And in doing so, he had planted a seed of wonder in her mind, a curiosity that would grow with every encounter. The princess finally turned to Elias, her trembling replaced with steady determination. "Captain, you have shown us that courage is not just action, but thought, patience, and understanding. I look forward to seeing what more we can learn together." Elias inclined his head, a faint smile on his face. "As do I, Princess Lyra, as do I." The tranquility of Xylaria's twin moons was shattered by a sudden alert in the royal palace. Crystal panels in the grand hall blinked urgently, projecting data streams that flickered with unstable energy. Princess Lyra's heart raced as she hurried to the command room. Elias Vance at her side, calm but alert. "What is happening?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension. Mael, her advisor, pointed to the glowing holographic display. "The planetary core's energy has begun to fluctuate. A storm of unprecedented power is forming in the upper atmosphere. If left unchecked, it could disrupt the life breath of Xylaria, destabilizing the entire planet." Lyra's eyes widened. Though she had faced many crises in her life, none had threatened her people on this scale. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Hours, maybe less," Mael replied grimly. "The Council is unsure. Our protocols are precise, but the storm moves faster than our calculations predict. Intervention is risky. One mistake and..." He did not finish the sentence. Elias studied the hologram, his calm presence unshaken. "Princess Lyra," he said, "may I analyze the situation? Perhaps a human perspective can find solutions beyond your standard protocols." Lyra hesitated. The Xylarians were meticulous, cautious, and strictly adherent to tradition. Outsiders rarely interfered in such matters, and humans were untested in this realm. Yet she remembered the trials. Elias had shown insight, patience, and creativity before. Perhaps he could see what her people could not. "Very well," she said. "But proceed carefully. One mistake could endanger the planet." Elias nodded and began examining the holographic data. He traced energy flows with his hands, observing patterns in ways that the Xylarians had not considered. The council members whispered among themselves, skeptical of his methods. They expected rigid formulas and exact adherence to protocol. Elias offered neither. Instead, he asked questions, suggested adjustments, and tested scenarios, all with calm precision. Lyra watched him closely. "Captain, what do you see?" she asked. "There is a storm forming due to an imbalance in the planetary core," he explained. "It moves like water seeking its level. Your protocols attempt to counteract it directly, but the storm adapts faster than anticipated. If we adjust the energy flow indirectly, guiding it rather than resisting it, we can stabilize the planet without forcing it into conflict." Mael frowned. "Indirect adjustment? That is untested. We could fail." Elias smiled faintly. "Sometimes the untested method works best when tradition cannot. Trust in observation and understanding." Lyra felt a thrill of hope. Elias had once guided her through trials using insight rather than force. Could he do the same for the planet itself? The council hesitated, but time left them no choice. Lyra gave the order, her voice firm. "Captain Elias, proceed. The planet's survival depends on all options. Lead and we will follow." Elias moved quickly yet calmly. Using human-inspired strategies, he proposed a series of energy adjustments, carefully rerouting life breath flows and creating channels for the storm to disperse naturally. He explained each step to Lyra and the council, emphasizing observation and adaptation rather than rigid control. Lyra assisted where she could, guiding the process and offering insights from her knowledge of Xylaria's systems. The storm above the planet roared like a living creature, lightning flashing across the skies, yet Elias remained composed, adjusting calculations with steady hands. Hours passed, and the tension in the chamber grew unbearable. Yet Elias's calm, his ability to remain focused while adapting to unexpected shifts, kept hope alive. Lyra could see the storm beginning to respond, its chaotic patterns aligning with the humans' guidance. "Princess," Elias said, "we are nearing stability. But we must maintain balance carefully. Any abrupt moves could undo the work we've done." Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of awe. Humans were smaller, less powerful than Xylarians, yet their minds, creative, adaptive, and fearless, could achieve what strict power alone could not. She realized that the human warrior had brought a gift far greater than strength, ingenuity and courage in the face of uncertainty. Finally, after hours of tense adjustments, the storm began to dissipate. Energy readings stabilized and the life breath flowed evenly once again. The council members let out sighs of relief, some openly expressing amazement at the solution. Mile turned to Lyra, his voice shaking with respect. "Princess, this was extraordinary. Never have we seen such understanding applied so effectively. The human, he has saved the planet without force, without danger, only through thought and observation." Lyra felt a mixture of pride and gratitude. "Captain Elias," she said, turning to him, "your courage, your clarity, and your mind have done what we could not achieve with tradition alone. You have earned the respect of Xylaria." Elias inclined his head humbly. "I only did what seemed right. Your people's knowledge guided me as much as my own ideas. Together we achieved this." Lyra smiled softly, feeling her earlier fear completely replaced by admiration. The human warrior before her had proven that courage and ingenuity could come in many forms, not only in power or strength, and she realized something even deeper. Humans, with their creativity and adaptability, could become true allies for her people. The night fell over the city, painting the crystal towers with silver light. Lyra walked with Elias along the palace terrace, watching the stars reflect in the gardens below. The city had survived, the storm was gone, and yet the air felt charged with a new sense of possibility. "You saved Xylaria," she said quietly, not with force but with thought. "That is a kind of courage we rarely see." Elias shrugged, smiling faintly. "Courage is not always about strength or power. Sometimes it is about calm, observation, and trust in what you can do with what you have. Humans have survived for centuries with this approach, and I think Xylarians can benefit from it too." Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining with newfound respect. I have always admired strength, wisdom, and tradition, but now I see that courage can be different. And humans, perhaps they are not just unpredictable. Perhaps they are inspiring." Elias turned to her, his calm gaze steady. "Princess Lyra, you lead your people with wisdom and care. That is courage too. Perhaps courage is not only in action or observation. It is in how we inspire each other to do what is right even when it is hard." Lyra felt her chest tighten with emotion. This human had shown her that fear could be transformed into trust, that uncertainty could become hope, and that respect could grow where doubt once lived. For the first time, she felt that the future of her people could be shaped not just by tradition, but by collaboration and shared insight. "Captain," she said finally, her voice soft but firm, "you have shown me what humans can truly be. Not just strong, but extraordinary, and I am grateful that you are here." Elias smiled gently, the glow of the city reflecting in his eyes. "And I am grateful to be here, Princess, for your guidance, for your people, and for the chance to learn and contribute. Together we have done what neither of us could alone." As the night deepened, the palace of Xylaria felt alive with a new energy. The twin moons reflected in the crystal towers, the gardens shimmered with life, and the bond between human and princess grew stronger. Not through fear or domination, but through courage, insight, and the power of collaboration. Lyra realized that this night marked a turning point. She had faced a threat that could have destroyed her world, and she had seen a human warrior not only survive, but excel in ways that no one had anticipated. And she knew deep in her heart that the story of Xylaria and humans had only just begun. The human warrior had arrived, and in doing so he had inspired a princess, a people, and perhaps even the future of an entire planet. And Lyra, once trembling in uncertainty, now stood with steady resolve, ready to learn, to trust, and to follow the path that courage and ingenuity could light. The morning on Xylaria dawned with soft golden light, the twin suns casting long reflections across the crystal spires. Princess Lyra stood on the palace balcony, her eyes scanning the city below. The events of the past days still felt surreal. A storm that could have destroyed her world had been stopped, not by brute power but by observation, ingenuity, and courage. And the human who had inspired all this, Captain Elias Vance, had become more than just a guest or ally. Lyra's heart was steady now, but it had not always been so. When Elias first arrived, she had trembled, not in fear of harm but of the unknown, of the power a single human could bring through thought, courage, and calmness. But over the trials, through observation and shared challenges, that fear had transformed into admiration, respect, and trust. She turned as Elias approached, his movements calm and purposeful as always. He carried no weapons, no display of force, just his presence, his quiet confidence, and the wisdom he had demonstrated so clearly over the past days. "Good morning, Princess," he said with a faint smile. "The city looks alive today," Lyra nodded. "It does, and it feels safer too. Thanks to you, Captain Elias. You have shown my people that courage and ingenuity can overcome even the most unpredictable dangers." Elias inclined his head. "It was not just me. Your guidance, your knowledge of Xylaria, it was essential. We worked together. That is often more powerful than acting alone." Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. "Yes, together I understand that now. And I see that humans, your kind, can inspire change not through force but through thought, courage, and patience. That is something rare, even among my own people." Elias's gaze softened. "And I have learned from you, Princess. Courage is not only in action but in leadership, wisdom, and care for one's people. Xylarians are extraordinary in that way." The two of them walked through the palace corridors toward the grand hall, where the council had gathered to discuss the next steps for Xylaria. The hall was filled with the hum of energy and the quiet anticipation of those who had witnessed the storm's resolution. Whispers spread quickly among the council members about the human warrior and the remarkable solution he had proposed. Mael approached Lyra quietly. "Princess, the council is eager to hear your thoughts on Captain Elias. Many are impressed, but some remain skeptical of humans. They see differences as uncertainty." Lyra nodded, her gaze steady. "Let them speak. I have seen the results. I have seen courage, ingenuity, and understanding that goes beyond rules. Captain Elias has not only saved our planet, but he has shown us that trust and collaboration can achieve what strict adherence to tradition cannot." Elias followed silently, observing the council with respect. He understood the delicate balance of authority and influence in the hall. Unlike humans on Earth, Xylarians respected hierarchy and ceremony deeply. Yet he did not let that intimidate him. He had learned to navigate these waters with patience as he had done in the trials and the storm. The council's leader, High Chancellor Valar, rose to speak. "Princess Lyra, the humans have long been mysterious to us. Some of our advisors warn of their unpredictability, yet the recent events cannot be denied. Captain Elias, your methods are unconventional, but effective. You have saved Xylaria from disaster." Elias inclined his head respectfully. "Thank you, High Chancellor. My intention was never to challenge your traditions, but to observe, understand, and act in the best interest of your planet. I am honored to assist." Valar studied him closely, then nodded slowly. "Your actions have proven that courage and intellect are not limited by species. Perhaps there is wisdom in learning from one another." Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm and confident. "High Chancellor, council members, humans are not simply outsiders to be feared or dismissed. They are capable of insight, courage, and ingenuity that can complement our own strengths. Captain Elias has shown us that collaboration, trust, and understanding can achieve what rigid protocol sometimes cannot." A murmur of agreement spread through the council. The words were simple, yet they carried authority and truth. Lyra had spoken not just as a princess, but as a leader who had witnessed the human warrior's courage and mind firsthand. Valar inclined his head, acknowledging her perspective. "Then it is decided. We will open a dialogue with the humans. We will learn from one another and explore collaboration. Captain Elias, your presence here is welcome." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of their trust and the respect in Lyra's eyes. "Thank you, High Chancellor. I look forward to working with Xylaria and Princess Lyra to build understanding and friendship between our worlds." After the council meeting, Lyra and Elias walked through the palace gardens again. The twin moons reflected on the crystalline fountains, casting a soft glow that made the flowers shimmer. There was a quiet beauty in the night, a moment of peace after the storm. "You have changed much here. Lyra said softly, looking at him, not just in saving the planet but in how we see humans. You have shown us that courage is not only in power or tradition, but in thought, patience, and collaboration. I'm grateful. Elias smiled faintly. And I am grateful, Princess, for your trust, your guidance, and your willingness to see beyond what you were taught. That takes courage, too. Lyra's hands rested lightly on the railing as she gazed at the city below. I have learned that fear can transform into respect, respect into trust, and trust into friendship. I no longer tremble before you, Captain. I stand with you, ready to learn, ready to face what comes next. Elias's eyes softened. And I stand with you, Princess. Together, humans and Xylarians can face challenges neither could alone. Lyra felt a surge of pride and hope. She had faced the unknown, tested her own fears, and found strength in the courage and mind of another. The human warrior had not only inspired her but had ignited a new vision for her people, a vision where differences could become strengths, where collaboration could overcome unpredictability, and where trust could unite worlds. As the nights passed on Xylaria, Lyra and Elias continued to work together. They studied the planet's systems, shared human and Xylarian knowledge, and explored ways their two civilizations could grow together. Each day, Lyra's admiration for the human deepened, not just for his courage or ingenuity, but for his ability to inspire and elevate those around him. Word spread throughout the city of the human warrior, who had not only saved Xylaria but had done so with patience, intelligence, and empathy. Children whispered his name in awe, and teachers spoke of his methods as examples of thought and courage. Even the most skeptical council members began to recognize the value of human perspective. Lyra walked through the palace corridors, observing her people with newfound understanding. She realized that the lessons Elias had brought extended beyond disaster management. They were lessons of vision, adaptability, and courage in ways that her people had rarely embraced. And she felt a quiet confidence that Xylaria's future would be brighter, stronger and wiser for it. One evening, standing on the highest balcony of the palace, Lyra watched the twin moons rise over the horizon. Elias joined her, silent as they observed the beauty of the city and the stars beyond. "You have changed me," Lyra said quietly, her voice carrying across the gardens below. "Not in ways I expected, but in ways I needed. You have taught me that fear can become understanding, and understanding can become courage, and that humans are more than I imagined." Elias looked at her, calm and steady. "And you have taught me that leadership is more than knowledge. It is care, responsibility, and the courage to inspire others. Princess Lyra, your people are extraordinary, and so are you." For the first time since his arrival, Lyra felt no trembling in her chest. Instead, she felt certainty. Certainty in her people, in her decisions, and in the human who had earned her trust. Together, they had faced uncertainty, danger, and challenge, and emerged stronger, united by respect, collaboration, and courage. The future of Xylaria stretched before them, full of possibilities. Alliances could be built, knowledge exchanged, and challenges faced with confidence. And at the center of this new beginning stood a princess and a human warrior, different in form, culture, and origin, yet united in vision and spirit. Lyra turned to Elias, her expression calm and resolute. "Captain, you have proven that courage is not measured by power alone, but by understanding, patience, and the ability to act wisely in the face of the unknown. I no longer tremble before you. I respect you and I trust you, and I consider you a true ally." Elias inclined his head with a gentle smile. "And I respect you, Princess Lyra. I trust you. And I consider it an honor to stand beside you, as an ally and a friend." As the moons reflected their light across the city, Lyra knew that the story of humans and Xylarians had only begun. Fear had transformed into respect, respect into trust, and trust into a partnership that could shape the future of worlds. And in that moment, Princess Lyra understood something profoundly simple yet powerful. Courage, understanding, and collaboration could overcome any challenge, even the unknown, even the seemingly impossible. The twin moons shone brightly, casting silver light across the palace and gardens. The city hummed with life, safe and thriving thanks to insight, patience, and the human warrior who had arrived as an outsider and become a hero. Lyra smiled, her heart steady, her mind clear. She no longer trembled. She stood with